But really, what in the end is what is 9/11 in the end is the beyond the fact that it was a set of events on a certain day and a certain set of events in the immediate aftermath. What is the importance of 9/11? What was the meaning of that event? Is really the most important question that we have to deal with here, and I think it's the one which we have made the least headway at answering so far. And I say that not only from a historical perspective, but that this is, what are we doing this for? We know what we're doing it for in a kind of political way. We know why we're doing it. We know what the world has asked us to do, and even what people are telling us to do. But what is the meaning of this event, and therefore what is the meaning of this museum, is something that we may not know maybe until we open, and maybe not even then. And that, in a sense, is good. Museums which say this is the meaning. If you see something, say something, and you put it over. Oh, there it is. That's the meaning. If we don't, the meaning of 9/11, I think, is to be able to keep that question open. I think is at least half of the battle, and I hope that we succeed in doing that.
So it first and foremost was supposed to be a reminder to everybody of what we think the public sees as the most important thing, and that there's been progress on it. Part of the motivation for writing the letter is that people are very quick to say, World Trade Center isn't moving fast enough. It's an embarrassment how slow it's going. And the reality is that 50% of this site, 8 of the 16 acres, is the memorial and museum. And if you look outside, there's no way you could describe it anything other than a tremendous amount of progress over this period of time. So I'm trying to also, from our donors, separate the painting World Trade Center site with the broad brush of nothing happening. Because the reality is, because of their contributions, because of the hard work of the city, the memorial, the port, Silverstein, there's a lot of good stuff happening. It's not the commercial side, but the heart of this project is the memorial, and that's moving.
Work. Part of the challenge around here is that even now, 8 years out, people are still telling us this is all wrong. Start again. I had meetings yesterday where they said, "No, this is wrong. Start this again. You can start again. Let's just start this over and get it right." I have to think that we're getting it right, but the very thought that we could just stop for a while and then do it to try and make another pass at it. At some point you've got to make something, and that point has arrived.
There's a logistics at JFK where the column is presently at that needs to be addressed. How do you move the last column with a bunch of other steel run in front of it? How do you move the other steel? How do you bring the last column? Is the last column ready from an environmental point of view? Is it from a conservancy point of view ready to be transported? How do you transport it? Where will it be transported? What roads will because it's a heavy piece.
So tell me, you have answers to these questions, right?
Sure. These are the 6 months worth of, and then there's the piece here at the site that needs to be done. We need to have concrete footings installed. We need to have the area open. We need to have the steel above ready. We need to have the whole road ready to have this move, because once this move happens, other pieces of work may not be able to happen that day. So we need to get ourselves prepared to make this move in coordination with other bodies of work happening there.
This is a huge and awesome responsibility for us to pose that we are to be the trusted repository of this physical thing, because to them it's the remains of their loved one. It has that DNA connection with their loved one, when in fact they may not have DNA. And one thing that has been very much important to me to make sure that I say to people, and that the group that works with me, that we really are very sensitive about managing expectations, that among family members who might want to come in and have a conversation about donating something to the museum, they first and foremost know that they're committing something to the public sphere by choosing to donate it to a museum. And that involves a certain trust that we as caretakers of these legacies will avoid politicizing death. We will not take these lives in vain, that we will be honorable stewards. And it's not automatic that they're going to give us that trust. You know, I mean, many people have never been in a museum. They're not museum goers. Why would they know? And so there's a lot of conversation about that to begin with. But the second thing is that there is often the expectation that if I give you my loved one's wallet, anytime I walk into the September 11th Memorial Museum, it will be there. And the next thing we have to do is to say that part of the role we play as stewards of this patrimony, if you will, is to make sure it survives over centuries. And to do that, we need to treat this material with the preciousness you would treat a human life, meaning, we have to take its temperature, make sure that its health is good, give it time to rest, that at any time, you're rotating things in and out. The item donated is always here with us at the museum. We can always make it available. If a family's coming in from North Carolina, they want to see what they've donated. If they call us the day before, we can make it accessible. But that, part of what they're doing is granting us trust to be the professionals that we are, to manage these stories, to rotate stories, to connect stories to larger themes. And that is often a very long period of relationship building. I have almost never had anyone call me up to say, I'm popping XYZ in the mail to you tomorrow, just send me a receipt. It is always, I'm coming to New York, I'd like to meet you, have a conversation. We try to never have return a phone call until we've had time to go do research to find out, here's the name, here's the loved one that died, who is this person connected to? You have to do your homework before you call people back. You can't just call people cold.
Certainly they are they're important stakeholders, and we are answerable to them, and particularly answerable to them, to the families, to represent, to honor their loved ones who were killed, to not insult their memory, to not offend them in any way, to present a dignified environment. But ultimately, my job and our job is to listen to all of these different stakeholders, to really do all of the research and get all of the opinions, and then to go off and decide what we think is the best thing to do. I mean, that's the only way that it can be done, is that I have to feel in my gut that this is the right thing. And if somebody tells me to do it, and there are cases where I've been told to do it, well then, and again, I don't disagree with most of those, but if someone tells me to do something and I don't feel that it's the right thing, then I'm not sure I'm going to do the best job. And I was, those are the conditions under which I was hired, and I think that's correct.